Good evening. A very warm welcome to this evening's talk. And we have our speaker, Nina Buchanan, here. And before I can introduce Nina to yourselves, if I just like to know if you have been here for the first time, anyone here? You have been here regular. That's really nice. So very warm welcome again. So we have Nina with us, who's been with the Brahma Kumaris for 27 years. Meditative practices have been intense, and she has used her meditative practices for self-empowerment and to share with great enthusiasm and zeal with everybody. And prior to that, she worked in the corporate sector, in corporate management and group dynamics. So she's a great team player and a dynamic speaker as well. So today's topic is from lack to abundance. Yeah, at some point we have experienced lack of. It could be anything. So we will hear from Nina how to go from discontent to content, but more important than that, how to maintain it as a permanent feature, contentment. So we hand over to you, Nina. Very warm welcome and thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for introducing me nicely, so nicely, and actually thank you for inviting me Wembley in a space. It's a place I've been coming to since my Brahmin life, actually. Yes.
And of course, we have our online view as well. So very warm welcome to you as well to this evening's talk, Lack to Abundance.
So lack to abundance. What does that mean? In fact, it's echoing. In fact, when I started looking at the topic, it reminded me of having done a talk called From Excess to Essence. And I felt that there was really some similarities between the two topics. It also reminds me, so excess to essence, lack to abundance, it also reminds me of this whole idea of contrast, the context of contrast, because excess and essence, they're opposites. Lack and abundance are opposites. So I thought, let me just play with that, the idea of contrast and see what unfolds. So what it really tells us is that we live in a world of opposites: lack, abundance, excess, essence, forgetting, remembering, wholesomeness, separation. And in our world, these are different sides of the same coin. They're different sides of the same coin. And it's what we experience. And it's like it's really saying something about us as individuals, as a race. You know, there are two sides to our identity. There is the body and the soul. And when you really think about it, they are really they're together. They cannot they cannot do without each other at this level. But on a much greater level, they are poles apart. So in our world, we have these two opposing sides coming up. The other thing that comes to my attention is the idea of mind over matter. And we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And everything is a state of mind. So going back to the opposing sides that I've just referred to, that's what I'm really trying to grasp the wholesomeness, the forgetting, the remembering, wholesomeness, separation, all of those, I think we will come to decide are about the states of mind, the different states of mind that we tend to gravitate towards consciously or unconsciously. So really, in a sense, what I'm trying to say is that everything really is a state of mind. Lack is a state of mind. Abundance is a state of mind. Wholesomeness is a state of mind. Separation is a state of mind. We experience lack. Why do we experience lack? We experience lack because we forget that we are souls and that we are innately abundant. It's almost as if the abundant identity is so much hidden when we are in this awareness of the physical that it's very difficult to grasp it. And so we get totally fixated on the physical, the lack, not realizing that the soul is abundance itself. So, what is the message of contrast and mind over matter? The world of contrast is basically on is based on a spiritually immutable law, which means that it just is. There is nothing that we can actually do about it. Just as the world of contrast is, there's nothing we can. It's what we have to work with as human souls on this planet. So we are in this business of remembering and forgetting. So remembering and forgetting, an essential part of our spiritual identity, not our human identity, because it's physical. We can touch it, we can see it, we can relate to it in such a way that it's just there in our faces all the time. But the spiritual identity, we have to look for it. So we're in the business of forgetting and remembering. And I think the cycle of day and night has much to offer us in understanding the nature of our journey, the nature of our journey of remembering and forgetting. We take on the identity of lack in order to navigate our way back to abundance. We take on the identity of lack in order to navigate our way back to abundance. And it's like an obstacle course that we have to work with. And remember, the nature of an obstacle course is that there are lots of tests, there are lots of challenges, and sometimes we feel that we're not going to be able to make it, but with determination and commitment, we get there. So without the experience of lack, abundance would be meaningless. Think about it. Without the experience of lack, abundance would be meaningless. Without the head, the side of the coin, which is the head, the coin would be meaningless. The tail would be meaningless. So it's like both are very, very important parts of our journey, our learning process. So without the experience of those two, abundance would be meaningless. And this is what is meant by the context of contrast. That's what it means. Mind over matter is also telling us to change the invisible. Remember, we cannot see the abundance because it's in the soul, and the soul is kind of almost hidden by those layers of learned behaviors and acquired values. It's energy. It's difficult for us as human beings to really see the energy behind the action. So mind over matter is actually telling us to change the invisible, and the visible will happen because thought, which is invisible, becomes things. Thought becomes things. And we need to begin with thoughts of abundance, even in the face of lack. We have to begin with thoughts of abundance, even in the face of lack. I'm repeating these particular points because they're important for me also, not just for you, but for me. Okay, so spiritual abundance is really the signpost to material and physical abundance. It's like we have to go through that and experience that before we get to a place where we can experience material and physical abundance in a way that is values based. When we don't know ourselves and we have wealth, it withers away. It causes a lot of challenges, worries, etc. Okay? So spiritual abundance is a signpost to achieving material abundance. So which would you choose? Which would you choose? Another question. And in putting this talk together, I thought questions are very important for me, as I'm sure it is for the audience as well. So the next question is, why is lack to abundance in principle the same as excess to essence? I thought it's a good idea just to kind of unpack that somewhat. So the mindset of lack is excess baggage. It means the mind is cluttered with negative and waste thoughts. And a mind that is cluttered cannot be productive, can it? So when the mind is cluttered, if one doesn't do anything about it, after a while, dis-ease and disease begin to set in, you see. Depression, anxiety, you name it. Those things become the order of the day. So what of abundance and essence? What abundance and essence saying? They come from the same awareness, of course, in that abundance is inherent in the soul, and essence is really another word for me in terms of going back to soul awareness, moving away from expansion into that point that we are, so that we can actually see clearly and we can become that detached observer to make the changes that are needed to improve our lives. So abundance and essence for me is when the mind is not cluttered, it's empty. it's uncluttered, and it's enabling me to think straight, for example. I can be in that state of calm and peace and balance. It means that I'm aligned. And it means that in that awareness, I can easily bring the soul into action, the awareness of the soul into action. So, what are the signposts to spiritual abundance? First, awareness. And Soprana mentioned, as she was introducing the topic, something about contentment, awareness and contentment. Those two really came to mind very strongly as I was thinking about the topic. So awareness and uh, contentment are the signposts. So it's about remembering that when we attract what we are, we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. So whatever it is that we would like to attract, because we are not aligned with inner abundance, we're attracting something quite the opposite. So if I'm not content with who I am, so if I'm not in alignment with abundance, I'm not content with who I am and where I am at. And I will be in bondage to lack. I will be in bondage to lack. Yes. It reminds me of the days before I became a BK. I had a lot. Materially, I had a lot, but they were not enough. So I've been there, and I can use my experience to demonstrate that, you know, we are in bondage to lack when we don't understand, when we are not aware of ourselves as abundant inside. Most of us struggle with being content, and tests and obstacles, they are here to help us grow. They're here to help us find our way back to essence, back to abundance, back to soul, back to peace. But if we resist the lessons, what happens? If we resist the lesson or the message, disease, they set in. So, how do we rediscover? And I use the word rediscover in order to make it clear that we have been there before. We've got to the pinnacle of inner abundance before. And here we are again, trying to remember that we've been there before. So how do we rediscover the secret of spiritual contentment? I was giving a talk last night on healing, making sense of heart wounds, and we were talking about the how do we return. And if we if we don't have a spiritual practice, it actually means that we are somewhat starting from scratch, in the sense that we've not practiced honest self-talk, really, getting to know the self, because everything starts with my own transformation, your transformation. Everyone's transformation begins with getting to know themselves and working at becoming our best friend. So honest self-talk enables us to find out why we have a sense of lack by asking ourselves some questions. And some of the questions that we could ask ourselves is it spiritual or material abundance that I seek? Is it spiritual or material abundance that I seek? Because if we've not really explored that concept before, then we need to really begin from scratch by asking ourselves that question. And the next question leading from that would be, how keen am I to change? How desperate am I to change? And often it's the what ifs or if only that is the basis of the struggle with contentment. Often it's the what ifs or if only that is the basis of our struggle with contentment. For example, I'm going to mention a few questions here. So it could be, what if I was given the promotion or opportunity? What if I was given that promotion or opportunity? What if I met someone special and had a family? What if I had some more money? What if I had some more energy? What if I had some more freedom? What if I lived in a different place, a nicer place, a bigger place, a better place? All of those things, they will be telling you something about yourself. Or your self-talk could be things like, if only I had their connection and resources, which really brings in that element of comparison. And you know what comparison does. When we compare, it really takes us down a very difficult road of lack, experiencing lack. So what if only I had their connections and resources, if only I could find the perfect person, if only life could give me a break, that sort of thing. So when we ask ourselves those questions and inward or outwardly express dissatisfaction with the way things are in our lives, this only breeds frustration. It breeds frustration, it breeds jealousy, it breeds envy, it breeds insecurity, it breeds self-pity, right? And none of those thoughts and feelings are going to take us into abundance at all. So we'll have the understanding that there's quite a bit of work that we have to do, isn't it? Because we'll be fooling ourselves if we think we're going to come into that sense of abundance with those thoughts, which are like an underground stream that we are not necessarily conscious of, but they are trickling away and creating havoc in our lives, isn't it? But, sorry, but this type of self-inquiry is open and it's honest. It's giving us information that we are not necessarily happy with, but it's hope open and it's honest, and it shows us exactly what is blocking the sense of abundance that we wish to experience. Would you agree? Yeah. So that kind of honest self-talk is very, very, very important. It is the foundation to really getting to know the self and becoming your own best friend. So now, getting into the crux of the matter, how do we peel away those layers? How do we peel away those layers? How do we break down the wall of discontentment? I'm going to change the slide a bit so that we can. No, oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I've gone beyond that, but I think it would be good for you to just see what's on the slide in relation to what I'm saying. So how do we actually get beyond all of that stuff that we've just identified? How do we peel away the layers? And it's really very important for us to appreciate that there are no quick fixes. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of diligence. It takes a lot of determination in order to gradually chip away at the blocks. But it's important to actually say that self-awareness is really the key to be able to begin to chip away at the blocks of discontentment. And what we do with in terms of self-awareness, we're actually shifting our focus inwards to our divine non-physical self, that non-physical identity that I've been talking about. And what it does, it actually frees us up from worrying about what we have and what we don't have in comparison to others. We experience contentment, we experience abundance itself. And it's very important for us to appreciate that comparison, what happens is that it steals our joy and contentment, and it replaces those with jealousy, envy, insecurity, etc., etc. So, how have I learned myself to be content? How have I learned to be content? How does it show up in my life? When I first became a student and the whole idea of happiness was introduced as an antidote to discontent, I'm speaking softly because, yeah, to discontent, it was very difficult for me to get my head around it. But what I understood is that happiness really is an inner quality that I can work with gradually on a daily basis. And it actually comes out with me paying attention to what I love doing and loving what I do. So I actually managed to use it in a practical way where I would bring that happiness into action in terms of the kinds of things I focused on doing. So when I became a Brahmin, I really loved the idea of working with the knowledge. And my desire was to become engaged with the knowledge to an extent where I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I'm speaking to people. So I really threw myself into that. And in my Logic work, I would also do the same. So I could see that contentment gradually started seeping in. The other thing that I do that shows up in a way that I'm content is that I wake up early in the mornings with a feeling of contentment. And it's not that it happens every day. Just the other day, I woke up one morning and I was feeling so groggy, so incredibly groggy, physically, mentally, spiritually. And as I was walking through the flats, I started just affirming how wonderful and how lucky I am to be alive, how lucky I am to be doing the things I am doing, how lucky I am to be a part of a spiritual family. And that in itself just shifted my state of mind. The other thing is, am I fulfilling my soul's purpose, doing what I love most? So the experience of my shift in awareness from lack to abundance, from excess to essence, really started 27 years ago, as Soprano was saying. And I've learned that lack triggers a feeling of discontent, and abundance actually generates contentment. I had a great job before I became a Brahmin, and I was able to travel the world a lot. I was having a wonderful time. But somehow I had this insatiable desire to just acquire more and more and more. And the more I acquired, the more there was this vacant hole there that needed to be filled. And that feeling of discontent really turned into a search that I started for finding a spiritual family where we were actually talking about high thinking things, values based things. I don't know where it came from, but I had this thought in my mind that I would look for a group where we were involved in the kind of conversations that I've never had in my life, in any group. And as I said, I don't know where it came from. And then I came across the Brahma Kumaris. It felt as if I had come to end of a cycle in my life, that cycle where the focus was mainly on external stimuli, things I needed from people, places, circumstances, and things to cater for my unmet needs. And on reflection, I think it's really important to say those, of course, were more of outer gratification and the feeling of always wanting to accumulate, always wanting to accumulate. So I had this really strong desire to reinvent myself, to invent myself. So what I've learned in the process of reinventing myself, self-awareness, going back to the whole idea of self-awareness, knowing who I am. And that enables me to identify my purpose. So if you are experiencing lack at the moment and you don't know what to do with it, and you don't know what to do with yourself, begin that conversation with yourself. It's important to know who you are. It's important to be able to identify your purpose. Don't worry about the material abundance that you so need. Focus on those elements of inner awareness first. So, where I am, not just who I am, who am I, but where am I? And within all of this, I learned that contentment is really the only real wealth, the only real abundance. And when I do what I love, and I love what I do, then contentment, abundance becomes a state of mind. And in that sense, there is really no space for lack and excess. There's no space. I met someone the other day, they were asking me what I do. This person, she was a lecturer. She's now retired. She said, "What do you do, Nina?" I said, "I'm retired, but I'm really very busy." Very busy, but not in the sense that it's painful. It's a loving, beautiful life that I live. And I have a small flat. And sometimes I ask myself, what is it that you need, Nina? And really, the answer is nothing. Nothing. I have everything I need. And I have less money, less funds, and less opportunities for traveling now, but I am feeling very content and abundant. So, how do I create abundance through self-awareness? It's that mindset, abundance mindset that I need. Everything, excess, lack, essence, abundance, is a choice. It's a choice for you to be happy and to use that signpost of happiness to move into, lean into your essence, lean into your soul identity. Your point of focus should be about being mindful, not mindless. You can choose to be mindful or you can choose to be mindless. And I'm sure you know what those two different aspects of awareness will take you. Self-awareness or lack of it will determine the outcome. If I focus on good, good things will happen. If I stay in negative thought patterns, unpleasant things will happen. If I hate the feeling of lack, if I hate the feeling of lack, what happens? I'm attracting it to me. If I hate people who are materially poor, what happens? I am magnetizing that towards me. Not because I want to, but because I have a strong reaction to those types of people. So strong reactions, they work against us. It means that whatever it is that we are resisting persists. So if you're feeling right now that you don't have enough materially, do not resist it, push it away, hate it. Engage with it in a way of accepting where you're at in that regard. And acceptance doesn't necessarily mean, okay, that's where it stops. You're not fighting it with negative energy, because when I don't accept, I'm not in soul awareness. When I don't accept, I'm not in that spirit of abundance. I'm in that spirit of lack. So accept where you are and begin to make friends with yourself. Observing yourself is a very good way to begin as well. Observing enables you to change yourself, become that detached observer, not resist, but see it, not necessarily allow it to overwhelm you, see it and accept that it's there, and do something about using compassion to change. So contrast is a natural part of life. Lack, abundance, night, day, wholesomeness, separation, excess, essence. They are natural parts of life. And they require us to keep rebalancing, because that's our journey on this planet. Always rebalancing, not resisting, not pushing away, but just allowing, in order to align to our inner values. So when we feel a sense of lack creeping into our awareness, what do? We bring out those tools, those qualities and virtues, to bring ourselves back into balance. Like what I was saying about waking up one morning and feeling, oh, I want to go back to bed. No. Bring out the tool of gratitude. Bring out the tool of happiness. Sometimes I even begin to dance. Yeah. Before I leave for class in the morning. It's a way of, shifting my awareness. I'm going to finish now. I can see it's 7:30. So one last thing, setting the scene to engage with abundance and inner dialogue. Remember, inner dialogue. Inner dialogue. Prioritize your relationship with yourself to find out who you really are, why you're here, what's your purpose, what do I care most about. Be your best friend. And as your best friend in that scenario, there is self-respect, there is love, there is honesty, there is trust. And remember, try not to compare yourself with others, because comparison, remember, takes away your joy and replaces it with jealousy, lack, insecurity, all of those things. Thank you very much indeed.
We're going to do question and answers. Lena, we're going to do questions and answers. If anybody have a question.
Yeah. So are there any questions? Anything you want me to go over somewhat that you feel you need a bit more insight and understanding about?
Thank you for the talk. Very interesting. You said when we are not aligned with abundance, it leads to lack.
Yes. So our inner identity, our spiritual identity, within that is abundance. It's essentially, abundance lives there. It's an inherent part of our spiritual identity. And if we are not in the awareness of our spiritual identity, then the tendency will be for us to seek to have our needs met from outside. There will always be something that I need from outside, from you, or a situation to make me feel content. So abundance is something that I can have access to just by the snap of a finger because it's within me. You know, I was saying about the other morning when I felt really totally out of sorts and I just started to do quite the opposite. Before I started practicing meditation, I wouldn't have done that. It would seem quite weird to, move from a space of feeling, miserable and wanting and starting to experience happiness through gratitude and so on. So it's because I know that I can tap into that aspect of my identity because I have engaged with myself, the soul, the soul. The body is not the self. The soul is the true self, the real eternal self. That's the identity that I need to engage with and embrace, not the outer. Because if I embrace the outer and forget about the soul, then lack is the order of the day.
Hi, thank you for the talk. My question is, when you said ask yourself some honest questions, like what is or if only, suppose when you ask those questions to yourself, but you want both. So is that also saying that I'm not being honest to myself? Like, for example, if I say, I do want to practice my spiritual journey, but I also want to go after materialistic stuff, not maybe excess, because through my spiritual journey, I'm in contact with certain things. So you do want a mix of both the worlds. Am I being honest to myself at that moment?
No, totally. And it makes a lot of sense that your answers will be very much straddling both stools because the soul at this particular point in time is living in a body. And one needs to have one's needs met. You need to have a house to live in. You need to have work to generate income, to pay your bills. You need to be able to put food on the table. You need to wear clothes. So it's quite natural to have those desires. But it's how. It's not about the what. It's about the how. How do I achieve those? Do I forget about my spiritual identity and just go after achieving that? Then if that's the case, then there will be challenges. You will have an obstacle course to run. Yeah.
So how do you balance both?
How do you balance both? You work, you do whatever it is you need to do for your livelihood, but at the same time, develop a spiritual practice. You're here today, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I expect you come to these sessions on a regular basis. So that you're actually doing it. But You're doing it, but I don't know to what extent you are doing it to enable you to achieve what you want to achieve. You know the answers to the questions that relate to yourself. Yeah. So maybe you might want to step it up. I don't know. You're the only one who knows whether or not you should step it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Any more questions?
We can finish with the short meditation. I have a question. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Following on from the young lady's question, living in the materialistic world and the spiritual world, as long as truth is observed, which is what Baba is saying in his Murli today, everything is okay. But then I kind of feel that a young generation, like my daughter, would say that, but I need to go out clubbing, and I feel that I need to be spiritual as well. What do I say to her?
Oh, yes. How old is your daughter?
28.
28. Okay. And she lives at home, presumably. Yes. Okay. So each of us are quite unique as human beings, very unique. And it's not about what we do necessarily, it's how we do what we do. So that's one thing I want to put into the pot of my answers to you. So it's not about what we do, it's how we do what we do. Perhaps her going clubbing does not interfere with her way of her spiritual practice. From your perspective, being a totally different person, it doesn't make sense. But from her perspective, it may make a lot of sense. And yes, I know as a parent, you would like her to follow the path that you have taken because you know it's right. But acceptance and allowing is not necessarily condoning what she's doing. It's allowing her to experience her journey the way she has elected to experience her journey. So far at 28, she's really kept herself, she's protected. She's not got into any trouble. She's a good daughter, I'm sure, because yes, I can tell. So let me go back to the phrase. Acceptance is allowing, it's not condoning, it's allowing her to experience her journey and get to the end, and she's going to be fine. Just trust. Just trust. Trust. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So sitting in silence allowing your focused attention to go within, allowing the breath, the vehicle that takes your awareness from the external, take you into your inner sanctum of peace, your inner sanctum of safety, your inner sanctum of abundance. Engage with the breath and allow it to take you inwards. It is the life force of the soul that keeps this body alive. Breath takes me into life. Breath sustains me in life. Breath takes me out of life. And so use the breath each time you need to take refuge from within, going into that space of stillness, of calm, connecting with the tiny points of infinitesimal light that sits at the center of the forehead between the eyes. Feel yourself going deeper with each out breath. The body is relaxed. The body becomes still. And the mind is quiet. And I am the detached observer, the pilot of the aeroplane, sitting in the cockpit as the plane navigates its way to its destination. In this awareness, there is no clutter. There is no excess. There is no lack. It's just abundance. I experience myself as that pinpoint of light, essence. Allow yourself to engage with that aspect of your identity. Allow it to permeate your being and world. Drinking the nectar of peace, of love, of compassion for the self. I am that beautiful jewel of light that is abundance in itself. Om Shanti.
Wow. I'm sure you will all join me in thanking Nina for a wonderful talk, wonderful sharings, right? Thank you so much, Nina. Listening to what Nina had to share today, I took for myself the missing link, actually, that within this body is this being, the soul, both interdependent, but really the main decider of all decisions, the experiencer, is the soul. And I very much enjoyed what you said, that all contrasts in this world, the world of contrast, is a state of being, the state of the mind. But contentment is the greatest state of our mind, of our very being, that makes us the master. And then there is, we connect with the abundance. And that's what I took for myself. So thank you very much. So just to let you know that, as always, our next talk is on Tuesday, the 16th of July. And the topic for that talk is confusion to enthusiasm. Right? And right. So, and also to let you know the activities that are held here. We have reflective meditation, which is every evening on Mondays and Thursdays. Yeah. Join us on Mondays and Thursdays, and which is in-house and online. So it's a hybrid for 30 minutes. And the timing is 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It excludes bank holidays. We also have morning meditations, which is only online every Sunday. And the time is from 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. So if you would like to experience more of the same, more of yourself. There is also a fast track Raj Yoga evening meditation course, which is online. So if you're interested in knowing more about the spiritual journey, more about understanding, the Raj Yoga evening meditation course starts on Monday, the 15th of July, and it will last till Sunday, the 21st of July. And the timing is 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. But this is only online. Yeah. And then last but not least, we have our bookshop downstairs, which has a lot of self-help resources. And you'll find a lot of vital ingredients, materials to help you on your spiritual journey. And I'd like to present here the project of the week that we have here. So we have It's Time for Relationships. This is how spiritual wisdom can bring freedom in relationships. And this is by Aruna Ladwa. You will find it in the bookshop here. This is also a wonderful book by Dadi Janki. And this is 365 Days of Wisdom, daily messages to inspire you through the year. So as Nina was mentioning, all the affirmations, do not allow your mind to bring you down. So you will find these in here. And this is what we call a timeless calendar. So every day of the year, you have a message for yourself. You may take it as a thought for the day, a reflective affirmation. So that is also available in the bookshop. Okay. Thank you very much for coming and joining us this evening. And we look forward to having you again. Om Shanti. Good evening.